When the COVID pandemic began and much of the world retreated indoors, remote work became a way of life for millions of employees. Many people saw this as a temporary solution to keep businesses running during an unprecedented health crisis, but 3 years later, around 22 million people in the U.S. were still working from home 100% of the time. That's according to a 2023 Pew Research study. Now, as some employers are calling staff back to the office, some employees aren't ready or willing to go back.
There was a blurring between work and home domains, but it was in a way where folks were able to recognize that there's a sense of flexibility, that they're able to still work and they're still able to accomplish whatever they need to do at home. I mean, there are some challenges and difficulties in that, but it was an eye-opener, I think, for a lot of people to realize, hey, I can still work and I can do it from my living room, or I can do it from my little office or a corner area in my dining room. So I think that was a positive for employees to recognize that they could still get stuff done even though they weren't in a physical office building.
That's Dante Myers. He has worked in human resources and people analytics for large companies like Nike and BlackRock. Myers says with more flexible schedules, no more commutes, and fewer interruptions from coworkers, many employees became more productive with the shift to remote work.
You see people working in ways that I don't work better for them. Folks were working more. Folks were knocking out more things. Folks were pushing harder because you don't have commutes. A lot of people were getting more hours in a work day because some of those other areas were cut out. Some of the conversations that kind of take you down one path. Folks are at their computers, at their desk, knocking things out for a lot more hours. So no, you actually saw productivity increase.
But today, many companies are calling employees back into the office to work in person at least a few days per week. Meta, Apple, Disney, and Nike have all increased the number of days in office since 2021. And in September, Amazon announced corporate employees will soon be expected to work in office 5 days a week. Myers says the decision could have a substantial impact on Amazon employees and other companies who might follow Amazon's example.
I do think it sent shockwaves because it's provocative in the sense that it's not how folks have been operating over the past several years, and to require folks to return to the office in that manner, I mean, I think it raises alarms for Amazon employees. It raises alarms for employees that have across the board that have enjoyed and been able to capitalize on that flexibility in terms of balancing between work and home. And it raised the eyebrows and question mark for a lot of leaders across organizations to do the same and wonder if, hey, should we be moving back to this model too?
As employers encourage workers to come back to the office, they're finding that many workers don't want to return to a 5-day in-person job. A 2023 Gallup survey found that only 10% of people want to be in the office every day. The same survey said that nearly 40% of respondents said they would change jobs for the option to work full or part-time remotely.
In the pandemic, I think a lot of things became crystal clear to people. And one of those things that became crystal clear is that work is not life, which before the pandemic, work was life, right? And, with people losing family and friends and seeing the world kind of upended and uncertainty happen, I think people have a reluctance to choose work over life anymore.
That's Anika Parker, Director of Human Resources at Zally Family Market, a grocery store chain in the Northeast. She says that when her previous employer mandated workers return to the office, the decision hit working parents especially hard.
There were several employees who had altered their life during the pandemic, as far as gotten rid of babysitters. Some had moved. Some had made arrangements with their spouses that had different schedules, had signed their children up for medical appointments or activities that they couldn't do when they were working. And so it really turned several people's lives upside down.
Parker is a parent of 3 herself, and she says she faced similar issues when she was called back into the office.
When I had to go back in 2 or 3 days a week, it really took away my ability to be more present with my kids. So then I had to engage family members and lean on friends and hope they would say yes, take my kids places and then I would get there late. And that is very frustrating.
As some workers worry about losing their work-life balance, companies are also raising concerns about the sustainability of remote work. Both Parker and Myers admit that virtual work can have drawbacks for employers.
I think a lot of it is what was lost from pre-pandemic. Some of the, I would say, the driving home culture or the in-person connections and the creativity and the brainstorming and the working together, some of the camaraderie that's developed, the team connections. So the answer is to bring folks back to the office.
Parker says there will always be individuals who abuse the freedom of remote work.
Unfortunately, there are people who took advantage of the work from home situation and did more home than actual work, right? You know, if you notice on Amazon, they started selling those clickers that could click the button and click your mouse and make it look like you were working. And so unfortunately, there were some people who were actually not working at home and getting paid. And so I think all it takes is one bad apple to spoil the taste.
As Parker explained, staff members can set themselves up for success by advocating for themselves and letting their work and productivity speak to their work ethic.
I think employees can make sure that their leaders know they're working, right? Be present, be proactive, get on the calls, initiate calls, and, make it known that you're doing great work. Like, do great work.
Both Myers and Parker agree that remote work is here to stay, but Myers says the better question is, how much remote work are companies willing to tolerate?
If it was up to me, I would say some kind of situation where there is some in-office activity, there is some in-office moments where folks can come together, depending on the work, to brainstorm, to initiate a project, some things like that, but that there's still a great degree of flexibility that's afforded to employees so that they can create the schedules or the balanced life that works well for them. Because at the end of the day, if you have happy, engaged, and thriving employees, it's going to lead to business results and performance. So there has to be that exchange between both sides that works best for both.
So how can companies and their employees reach a compromise? Myers says it comes down to open communication.
If employees take more opportunities to listen and to read and to understand and to process and have open conversations where they share their perspectives, but not in an accusatory or in a defensive way. And the same thing, if companies open up their listening channels to understand why employees are saying certain things and to really, really process them, not come to their decisions already, but to incorporate the employee feedback, I think that's where we'll see the dividends that are paid for both employees and for employers.
To find out more about Dante Myers, Anika Parker, and all our featured guests, visit viewpointsradio.org. For more behind the scenes, check out Viewpoints Radio on X, Facebook, and Instagram. This segment was written and produced by Erica Linney. Our lead producer is Libby Foster. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. Studio production by Jason Dickey. I'm Gary Price.